see that.
Yeah, see, it just doesn't share the chat with you. So,
I can't even see it anymore on my side.
it says that it's showing it. Well, sup guys, it's corrupted
And it's dragging.
back again. So today's episode is gonna be a little different than normal. It's the first remote episode because this is how we're gonna have to start doing it for a little while. So, yeah. So if there's any hiccups or anything, or like some echo or something that we can't tell, let us know so we can work on it. But yeah, we just have to do it remote for a little while,
Oh
and
well.
so there's gonna be, if there's any discrepancies or lags and stuff like that, just let us know. That way we can get it ironed out. That way it doesn't happen again.
Welcome in, y'all. We back. We back. Starting a new episodes. Getting into Punk Hazard after finishing Fish.
Yeah, we're in Punk Hazard now.
Make sure y'all like, subscribe. Like, subscribe. Let us know in the chat. Anything you need to change, any discrepancies, any comments, any concerns. But yeah, starting Punk Hazard.
Yeah, Punk Hazard is kind of weird as a arc for me. I don't know if other people would agree, but or at least the first half of Punk Hazard is, because it's not what we've come to expect from a arc. Like, it doesn't have the traditional setup, because the entire setup is Luffy hears a distress call and it's just like, well, the island looks cool, let's stop there, and that's the entire reason they stop there. But that's not typically how Luffy decides to go somewhere. You know what I mean?
I mean, he never really set in stone how they decide to get to the island. I think it's been different for the most part every time they've went somewhere.
Well, like, there's a consistency to the places Luffy wants to go. Like,
I mean, Punk Hazard was definitely a place he wanted to go.
well, he didn't know it was Punk Hazard.
Yeah, I mean, he saw Flaming Island, a whole bunch of flames. Let's go. Nami and them was gonna talk him out of it, but then that distress call happened and then pushed him
You
to
can't
go.
talk. They can't talk Luffy out of nothing. They even explain that to
No.
Law later. In these
Oh no.
episodes, you're just like, yeah, Law, you done fucked up, kid.
I mean, even how they come on the island is like, they had to. None of them really wanted to go with Luffy like that. They had to draw sticks to see who was gonna go
Well,
and who
Zoro
was gonna
wanted to
stay.
go. But
I mean,
that's
that's
Zoro.
Zoro though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's just like, oh,
that's
we get to
definitely
fight
Zoro.
some motherfuckers? I'm down. That's like, and then Nico, she might not have wanted to go, but she seemed excited to get to go. Because, like,
Yeah,
she's laughing and smiling with Luffy the whole time that they're
she
going.
like doesn't shy away from danger. You know, like Usopp, Chopper, Nami,
Yeah.
sometimes Brooke,
I, I,
Sanji, sometimes too.
I think it's just because, like, she wants to see what's on the island, because as an archaeologist, it's, like, an interesting thing. Like, an island that's on fire, and no one's ever heard of an island that's on fire, and Nico would have heard of an island that's on fire, you know,
Of course,
from
yeah, because
being in
she's
the
the
underground.
knowledgeable one.
Yeah, so there being an island that's on fire that she didn't know about, even if it's in the New World. And it's at the very beginning of the New World, so people would have known about it, but no one knew about it. And so it stands to reason that she'd be like, sure, let's go. And then Usopp. This is one of the few times I don't blame him for being like, I don't want to go.
Yeah,
Cause,
nah, you're
like,
100% right.
like, we grew up in the deep south. We know how hot it gets. It's
Oh
probably
yeah, it's
three
really
times as
hot.
hot on that half of Punk Hazard. You know?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. And that's definitely understand why they don't want to go. And even when you look at just how like, cause looking from afar out from the ship, all those damn flames that was covering that island, bro, like it pretty much was a furnace.
Yeah.
Like pretty much.
And like we have the Brooke says like it's all a state of mind. You just got to think about it in a different way to not be burnt out by it. He's just like, just imagine that you're in a sauna. So saunas are hot as like I hate being in a sauna. So just being off the island feels like a sauna. Like that had to be very uncomfortable, you know?
I believe it.
Like it had to be like 160 degrees, maybe even hotter. Especially it was so hot that it was killing the fish. It was like pre-cooking the fish. Fish has to get like an internal temperature of like what is it, 400 degrees to make sure that you killed all the bacteria that could be in it. I think something like that.
I believe some. Yeah,
Well,
some
depending
definitely
on the
close to
fish,
that.
and those fish were giant. So
Big fish.
the water was definitely hot. But we learned that that was caused by Aokiji and Akainu had a what was it, 10-day brawl?
Yeah, 10 days. 10 days nonstop brawl of them just fighting. And, ice powers and Aokiji and fire and Akainu.
Yeah,
And it was all,
it's interesting though because the ice part looks like it did much more like it feels much more permanent than the other part. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
like the ice is all the way to like the we'll see later on. It like permanently changed how the insides of stuff is. Like the like when we'll see later on when Law has a fight in the deep underground, like there's ice all over the place in the underground,
Yeah, for
parts of
sure.
the base and
Like
everything.
even yeah, parts of the base, parts of the basement, like that stuff really like Aokiji froze the entire island down to not just the surface but to its
But
center
also,
as well.
isn't the island artificial?
No,
Uh, I thought it
because
was. I
that's where
thought it was
I
a
think that's
artificial island because of
Vegapunk was
it
there
doesn't show
first.
up on. It doesn't have its own magnetic thing like every other
Uh,
island does.
you could be right. That could be a detail I missed.
Yeah, because the I know Nami's just like, what? This is weird because none of the log poses point to it. Because, oh yeah, that's something I don't think we talked about last week. Is that the big change in the new world is that you have a triple log pose because
Yeah,
and you want to head to whatever's in the middle just because the magnetic waves are so much stronger in the new world. But Punk Hazard has no magnetic waves at all, or whatever it is they call it, magnetic pull or whatever it was. I forgot the exact word they used, but Punk Hazard doesn't have any of that, which is like interesting. It raises the
I
question
always
if
thought
it's
it
an
was.
artificial island.
I always thought it was because of Kiji and Akainu's fight because it was just so how much they destroyed that island in their fight because how you have a fight so intense that it changes the whole atmosphere of it, like the weather, everything, like permanently, or not permanently for a long time. Like just how intense their power was to just change the, you know, makeup, the outlook, the whole makeup of that island. It would make sense, but both things make sense.
Yeah,
Like, cause
uh,
I know
huh?
all I know is Vegapunk was definitely on there before they were, and then he left the island. So I don't know if it
Yeah,
was
he was
for
there.
that beforehand.
Uh, the big thing is that's interesting about it is that they're like it was supposed to be an abandoned thing by Dr. Vegapunk thanks to an accident, and we see that on the entrance to Punk Hazard, it's a gate with a sign on it that has a little navy symbol like the little seagull that the Marines have, a little world government sign like thing next to it. And then in between those two, on the same color sign, it's the we don't know what it you don't know what it is as a viewer the first time you see this thing, but if you see it once you're caught up, you notice it is the Beast Pirates logo, and that's important for what's coming up later, but the implication of there being a Beast Pirate logo on the thing that says keep out with the government and Navy insignias, in my opinion, is very interesting. Like, you know what I mean? It's cool to see it when you didn't know what it meant the first time, because you're just like, oh crap, that's Kaido's symbol. You know what I mean? Like, because at the point where you see it,
It's
this is
yeah.
the first
It
time you
looks like
see
it's
it.
kind of Kaido's like old symbol.
Yeah.
Like now that I'm looking at it and seeing it, like for real, like it kind of looks like Kaido's old symbol. So
Well, it's the exact symbol of his base of operations.
it's not. It looks like Onigashima, pretty much.
Yeah. Like, I just know what that symbol means, before I even watched the show and caught up, is because of the card game. A bunch of the Kaido cards, like Kaido
I wouldn't
related
be so
cards,
because, like, of
have
course, we're not there yet.
that symbol.
But going to how we know Kaido's backstory of him coming out of there, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's a lot of possibilities, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's like, "Hey, I came out. I'm just gonna adopt it and go." But it's kind of
But
it's iffy.
here, I'm gonna see if I can put a picture of it in, cause upgraded the thing a little bit, but it's um because in the manga, like, it looks like they were put there at the same time. Like, it's uh yeah. I was able to just put it up there. That's the symbol right there. If you see,
Yeah,
like, it's not put on top of a world government sign or anything. It's part of the world government sign. You see,
yeah.
like,
Like it looks. Is you can definitely see like the illustration that it kind of looks like Kaido's thing when you come back, but it's also a good foreshadow coming back because it's like it's letting you know because in this arc, of course, at some point when we get there, this is basically Luffy's picking out his like enemies. Hindsight 2020, you can see pretty much that when he asks him when he asks him he wants to go after the emperors, you know, Kaido's the one they choose, but also, Luffy pretty much this is pretty much him spelling out how his enemies are, which is why the biggest one is one we see that's kind of like an emperor's. This is just my take. Like I just think it's probably like a good I think it's a great foreshadow nonetheless, even if it doesn't allude to something a little bit like deeper, like maybe Kaido being working or like Kaido being an instrument for the world government, which makes sense too once you see how Wano was handled, but we'll get into that later.
well,
But
also,
like
like,
it's a good
next
foreshadow to
week.
when we sit here and
Next
talk
week we
about
see this entire thing is Kaido's operation.
for the most part, yeah, pretty much.
Like, what Caesar's doing, but it raises the question with that: why is Kaido on the original thing's door? You know what I mean? Like, why is his symbol on the
I
door that
still, like I say,
existed before?
my my thing still is that symbol was first and Kaido adopted it. That's my thing because it
That
makes
is
sense
possible.
when you think how much Punk Hazard probably like meant to him getting out of that, him picking up King. That was the start pretty much of the pirates in Wano, starting with him and King, and then it goes from there. But yeah,
Yeah, that is definitely a possibility. But also, what's it called? The that symbol is his belt buckle too, right? Like, I'm not crazy.
no, you remember his belt buckle is also his what you call it his what's the name his logo.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I say. He's had that logo for a while, because if I remember correctly, I don't remember what chapter it is. Um, but this could just prove your point. Um, if I remember correctly, I think when he meets King, um, what chapter is it? Boom. I could have sworn, like when we learn his true name is Arbor, when we learn King's real name is Arbor,
Albert.
or it means Arbor. But I know what you're saying.
I've only seen Albert in all translations. I didn't know it was a R, A-R-B-R. I thought it was
Yeah,
A-L-B-A-R.
it has to do with trees, which I think is a really good like thing from what's Oda. I can't find it; it won't pop up for me.
Yes.
Um, but if he is wearing that belt buckle at the time, then it just makes what you're saying sound the most plausible. You know what I mean?
But we will definitely get there when it's
Yeah,
time to
when we
talk
get there.
about that.
We gotta remember. I gotta remember to bring it up when we get there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, we're gonna talk about it again. I mean, his logos, all this stuff matters. Like
Yeah,
Blackbeard's logo has significance, of course. Everybody's logos has significance up in One Piece if you know dive into those. But
yeah, but we're not quite sure yet. But Zoro cuts the door down. They walk through. They meet a
that gate,
dragon,
yeah.
like an
And that's
actual
something I noticed.
dragon.
Like that's something I've noticed and seen. Like I like how when we talking about coming into the new world, it's completely different to where the world we came from. Like the Grand Line is obviously different in comparison to the new world. We're starting to see that. Like it was already kind of out of the park with a lot of stuff we did, like the huge fish and the giants and Little Garden to, you know, some of the structures and stuff and impel down the concepts. But now we're starting to get into real full blown like fantasy, like other world stuff. Like now we're starting to see dragons and fish man got dug into them, but that was a concept we had heard about for a long time and have dealt with. But now we actually saw the fishermen and going into that. But now, of course, we see dragons. We're gonna see some more um, fantasy type animals this art. But it just ups as we go on and on. It just ups and gets higher and higher
Yeah, it's
as we
interesting
go on.
that because we learned Vegapunk created the dragon because he can create
Yeah,
artificial life,
yeah,
and he based it off myths. But it's interesting that the type of dragon that it is, because it's a
mm,
drake. A drake is a
right,
six-limbed dragon,
right,
but we know that the dragon that people believed in ancient times, in the One Piece universe, is the type of dragon Kaido is, right?
which we'll get there.
Which
But it's that's what I'm
it's
talking about. Like
interesting that he
that's
made
how
a
we
drake instead of a Siryu. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But that's the type of that's what we're talking about. What I'm talking about is because it's like we're starting off the introduction is this. It's like really we're just entering the new world. That's how they spelled it out for us. That this is them actually officially entering the new world and us seeing like the new animals of like legend and stuff like you would just imagine because we see more than one type of dragon throughout this whole thing. Like we've seen, you know, Kaido's and his version. I don't know all the names. I know Drake and Dragon are different. I
well,
know
Drake is
Wyvern.
like a
Wyvern's the
species of
one.
dragon, and Wyvern's a
Wyvern.
species. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like
And
different species.
but there's even like the one because I saw a picture of it recently. Like Worm, it would be what the one that has no appendages.
Yeah,
Like
a
it's
Wyrm
just
is
a
like
serpent,
a yeah,
just a
it's
serpent one.
sort of like Shinron but without the legs.
No, 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 that one's different because Shinron and them have arms and legs. That's what Kaido's is.
Yeah, yeah,
Kaido
that's what I'm
has
saying.
arms and legs,
I know. I'm saying a Wyrm is kind of like what like Kaido and Shinron is,
but they're
but
different.
without the legs.
They're
Like I'm
different.
just like drawing a picture of what they. It's like the the original name for the thing that Kaido is called like Yingling or something like that. I'm trying to remember the exact name. It's a Chinese mythological dragon. I think Japanese word is Siryu. That's why his thing is fish model Siryu. but it's like one of the oldest versions of dragons documented is the thing that Kaido is. Like it's older
Yeah,
than
an amphitheater.
the idea of drakes. The
They call it an amphitheater up in what I found.
um like the type of dragon Kaido is. The myths with that type of dragon are older than the myths with a drake style of dragon, like a six limb dragon with like a front and back legs and then wings. It's like significantly older,
It has
which
wings.
is a really cool nod in my opinion to the fact that the like I don't think Oda didn't know that with the artificial dragon stuff, and then next week we can take that point even further when we meet
Sure.
Momo.
Yeah. No, I'm just looking up the different dragons right now. So,
Yeah, there's a
it's like
lot of different
Knucker.
dragons.
Amphitheater is the one that has wings. That's a serpent. Like I think Knucker's the one that's like it has the head with the arms and the legs, but like little to no wings. It looks kind of
The weird one
like.
is wyverns are almost cattish. It's really weird.
But the one thing that I'm finding that's even crazier is in the type of dragons that there are, they have Quetzalcoatl as one, and we
Yeah,
know about dragon being a Quetzal. There's the theory that dragon's the
yeah,
Quetzalcoatl
is the
fucking
yeah
fruit,
is
and I didn't know that was classified
KKK
as a dragon.
back in the Smite days.
Kukulkan. You
Yeah,
have to say it for people who don't know what that god is. It's Aztec, Mayan god of wind of some kind, the seven winds or
I think
something.
he's the god of wind and storms, if I remember correctly. He's the god of a lot of stuff, but yeah, that it's also interesting that his name is Dragon. Like, there's no way that's not related. You know what I mean? Like, I I fully subscribe to that theory that he is a Quetzalcoatl. Also, it'd be cool if he is like Coco Khan because we saw a pterodactyl fruit exists, and a Quetzalcoatl is just a big ass pterodactyl. You know, so it'd be cool if that is a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But they see a dragon up in One Piece, and I think it was all crazy that how when we was just talking about how mythic they tried to go with it, and the first thing that Oda kind of alluded to was a dragon that talked and breathed fire, which is also a foreshadow. That was really good
Yeah. Well,
that they
it's
ended up fighting.
the dragon doesn't actually talk. It's just the leg stuck to him that
I
talks.
know, of course, but I'm talking about the initial idea that was almost ran with was that it was talking, but we found out it was the legs. But that was a good foreshadow, seeing a dragon that could talk. But it's like they didn't think that it could exist, like how the anime showed how much of a spectacle, how unicorn like it was for them to really get up and see that. It was like that's what they introduced, and the way they reacted to it was in so much of a spectacle, so much as otherworldly, and then for us to know what comes next and how they actually do ended up fighting a dragon that can actually talk and breathe fire. It's just a great foreshadow, like hindsight 2020 things.
Well, also it makes the foreshadow even better when you like go back to the gate thing.
Yeah,
Like
of
it's
course,
a
it's
symbol
all big.
of the actual fire breathing talking dragon. Like is technically the master of this dragon. That's a fire breathing dragon that they think can talk. So it's just a
Mhm.
nice little collection of things. Like they all come together in a nice way. And they kill the dragon, and as you can imagine, Luffy wants to eat it which sounds exactly like what Luffy would do if he found a dragon. You know what I mean? He'd be like, this is the only time I'm ever going to get to eat dragon meat, so we're going to eat the dragon. There's no doubt in my mind that he'd do stuff like that. And then I like how, with the torso that he found, or not the torso, but the legs that he finds, he puts them on his back so he can pretend to be a centaur.
Which is the other mythical creature that gets introduced.
Yeah.
Which it just shows crazy how, like, that's what I'm talking about, how the fantasy Oda's trying to depict is just coming to fruition. It kind of lets me know, like, a lot of things that happen in the New World makes me feel like that he was waiting on it, because it's like, he was waiting on, like, a lot of things to happen. One of his favorite arcs to depict. But, like, seeing how he just opened the fantasy up in One Piece is just like, I just noticed this. Like, I didn't notice how much the fantasy aspect opened up once they left Fishman Island and truly got to the New World. It's like he really opened up our eyes to saying, yeah, this is definitely a different world than y'all just came from. Like, for sure. Like, that idea in of itself.
Another thing that reinforces that point that you just made is we've seen one mythical Zoan before that point,
up to this point,
and it was like an introduction to it.
Which it wasn't even, I don't even think really, it wasn't even, it was just a mild introduction, not really a dive that we get.
Well, actually,
later.
we've seen two of the rarest forms of devil fruits, the ancient Zoan in Drake, and Marco the mythical Zoan, and it's just to show you like how crazy it can get with things that you can run into. And then the New World is just like, what if that was an 11? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, especially once we get into Dressrosa, like the latter half of Dressrosa, where we meet like Pecomon and everybody, like, and you truly see what can happen with everything.
But that's one of the things that's like so interesting, because when we talk about One Piece and see, like, it ain't too many times, because what I can think of, like, time skipping Naruto and going from regular Dragon Ball to Z and all that, how much the story changes. But like, this is like, I never noticed how much the setting of One Piece changed once they got to the New World versus where they were before. I mean, before we had, like I said, we had big fish, we had giants, a big hole in the ground, and in these lobby, a city made of water, Skypiea, probably one of the biggest spectacles we saw in pre-time skip. But now here we are, and we've seen fishermen, we've seen, whale-sized people, we've seen the Sea Kings, we've seen a ship bigger than the Sea Kings that the freaking Sea Kings were meant to pull, and now we're at an island that has the extremest heats and the extremest of colds, and it's just like that after a fight. Then there's people living there. Not only are there people living there, there's a goddamn dragon. Not only is there a dragon, there's centaurs. And it's like, bro, you're really starting to, like, bro, I can imagine somebody watching this is just losing their minds with how much to just take in, with how much the setting is just expanding. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think the big thing with that, like, to like add to the point, is like you brought up Naruto and Dragon Ball, how like they change so fast. Like going from the next thing to the, because the first thing that happens in Dragon Ball is that we meet an alien.
Right.
Like as soon as it changes, like we find out Goku's not just this overpowered kid that grew up. He's actually an alien warrior race. In Naruto, it immediately is just like, here, kid, go fight the Akatsuki. Like, go fight a member of the final boss group. Like, it immediately starts with that. But One Piece is just like slow. Like, they don't face unsurmountable odds the first arc out the gate.
It's you're led into it. It's not something that happens almost immediately.
Yeah, like the other ones, it's just immediate. Like, shit is real. One Piece is like. Also, I think it adds to the fact that Horty could have got, like, if he would have fought Luffy not in the water, he would have immediately got one shot and it's over. Like the the trouble caused by Horty is actually trivial to our characters, so it feels like you're just walking through it. But the other ones that you mentioned, like the reason it feels so real so fast is because like Goku fucking dies in the first arc. You know what I mean? Like Naruto watches someone die in the first 30 episodes of the new arc. One Piece, nobody dies. Nobody, like, you know what I mean? Like, people get fucked up, sure. But, like, it takes, like, 75 episodes for shit to get real. But the other two, they are immediately real. But then, One Piece, it just slowly builds up into, like, it, like, reintroduces the character, shows them what's up, and then it just goes, oh, by the way, deep end. Instead of like the other ones that they just immediately push the characters into the deep end. Which I think is good. Like, I don't think it's a bad way to write the story at all. Personally. I don't want to say I prefer it, but I don't like it less. If that makes sense. You know what I mean? You there? I think we're having a slight technical difficulty. So give us 1 second while we figure out what it is. Yeah, I think Dragon disconnected real quick. But yeah, I think it just adds to how Oda tells the story. It's not a. I guess the right way to say it is it says it's a. It shows that Oda's is more of a slow burn. Not so much a.
Slow burn.
Not so much a. Like the other ones, they just straight out of the frying pan into the oven, or however that saying goes.
Straight out the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah, that one. That, like, the other shonens, like, his contemporaries, One Piece's contemporaries, just immediately just go, here you go. But also, you could argue, they just came out the fire, and now they're going back into the frying pan with One Piece. And that's why
Oh,
it's
of course.
a slow burn.
Oh, of course.
So,
They got to make you feel it.
like with Marineford, I was just like, well, Luffy just went through hell in a handbag, so let's just let him ease into everything, and then just boom, everything. You know what I mean?
They do. I like the way Oda does it too, because it's like it took me into what we're on my third or fourth watch through, whatever I want to call it. But like I literally just put these two things together. It's like you just came from Fishman Island. Yeah, it was wacky and all that. But when you talk about New World differences and all that, that's where it was coming from. Like just seeing how much it expanded, and I like how subtle it was. Because it's something that it's something that once it's said and done, people gonna go back and appreciate just a little bit more once they start breaking it down and all that. And I think with Studios remake's gonna really show a lot of those more subtle things and pinpoint them a little bit more. So
that is one thing. With the manga does all the subtle things that the show doesn't. Like
Exactly.
Oda will let something simmer, and then the anime will be like, I don't know if the audience is clever enough to notice that, Oda, so we're just going to implicitly tell them. Just like,
Exactly.
God damn it, Toei.
Like what you just said, exactly one of the points you made earlier about how Luffy, and when he was mentioning Shanks to Law, when that conversation came up about the emperors, it was in the manga how Luffy just didn't really say anything about the emperors. It was like just asked them a simple question of which one when he asked which emperor we're going after, and that's a good subtle allude to him
Yeah, the
being
implication
cautious,
is
because
he
we would
doesn't want to
know,
go after
right?
Shanks.
Because the audience at this point should know that if there was an emperor, Luffy wouldn't want to fight right away. It would be Shanks. Like at the
Yeah.
point of story where we are now, we should know that.
Yeah, and he also might like there might be part of him that never wants to fight Shanks, but like
Right.
it's Luffy, he probably wants to fight Shanks when he's strong enough.
And the same
But
thing, because I look at it like the same way how he fought Ace so much. It wasn't so much of him wanting not liking Ace. It was just that he's testing his skills against his brother, and I'm pretty sure it'd be the same thing. Like if him and Shanks get to a point now, because now if they were to meet, they're older now and they can handle each other, and Luffy can be roughed up more now than when he was a child, and a part of me kind of would always thinks what it would be like if Luffy actually, or if Shanks, excuse me, actually allowed Luffy to join his crew, how strong Luffy would actually be.
I think that's why he doesn't let Luffy join his crew.
Because he didn't want to cage him, but also,
Well, also like it's it's like can't really go into the Roger thing because that's like Red
that's
movie Red like comes in at like episode like 1,000 or something like that. But like his whole thing, he was raised on a pirate crew, so he probably sees it's better for Luffy to be raised a different way to be the person that Shanks hopes Luffy can be. Like
exactly, yeah,
I think
I agree with that.
Shanks thinks that there's something he can get out of not being raised as a pirate, but choosing to be a pirate. Because you got to remember, Shanks has been a pirate since like infancy.
Forever. Yeah, like this the only life you know.
Yeah. So I think he wanted to know if Luffy was about it, and then like earn it that way, is what it feels like to me. Which
Yeah, I agree with that
which to me
wholeheartedly.
it's better writing than the other way to do it in my opinion. Be like you
Of
were
course,
born into it, like choosing it, like dedicating your
because
entire life to it is
because I think
better.
it also goes. I think that's going to be one of the things in Shank's backstory that we end up coming to, because I'm liking, like, because when we see in the later stuff, not trying to go too deep into it, but just if you know how Kuma's backstory was written, audience, if you know, like it's almost like the way he did it and put a lot of pieces together in it just made it feel more hit hard a little bit more. And I think that when Shanks comes out and we get his actual backstory of what actually happened and how he actually got on Roger's ship, and when it comes down to it, I think it's gonna be like the exact same life that Luffy dreamed about, or Luffy always said he wants to give people. Shanks wish he had, so he gave it to Luffy.
Also, I want to know Shanks's neck workout routine. That
Perhaps
dude's
immaculate,
neck is
but
fucking crazy. Like you can't rear naked choke that man.
yeah,
Like,
no, man. That man
like,
flex his traps, throw you somewhere.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you probably can't even triangle choke this man. His neck is thicker than his head. This shit's impressive. His neck is thicker than Kuma's. His traps are bigger than Kuma's, and Kuma's like 20 feet tall. Like, god damn, dog.
But
But
nah, dude, it's like we see a lot of that, like especially in like when we get into like Law and Luffy's dynamic when it comes down to how they started off, and he always kind of stood on respect and all that, and like he might be an idiot, but that boy stand on respect, and yeah, boy gives Shanks the ultimate respect.
yeah,
I got everybody in the show probably.
yeah. The It's just an interesting way to think about it. And then another thing to talk about with these episodes that's different. It's with what's it called? Fishman Island. I can't believe I almost forgot the name of that arc. Fishman Island.
Just there,
It
Kyrie. We were
shows them.
just there.
I know we were just there. That's why I was just like, wait a second, what's wrong with me? But at the end when they have the big fight, it's 1v1. Like it's a bunch of 1v1 fights, right? To show off
Yeah,
how much stronger everyone has gotten. But the nice little nod is that it's like their individual fights, so we can see all the new stuff they've acquired while they were gone. Like Luffy got it, or not Luffy, Sanji with his blue walk, uh, Zoro's proficiency with Haki, Nami can use storm clouds, all the new seeds Usopp uses, Chopper being able to use Kung Fu Point so he can fight whenever he needs to now instead of just Monster Point or Behemoth Point, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
All that
he
stuff
got
you
developed a
see.
simpler fighting style.
Yeah, you see in this arc, it's not so much them showing off the new stuff or Luffy using Elephant Gun and Elephant Jet Gallon, stuff like that. In this arc, you see how they use their new stuff in tandem with each other a lot
Yeah,
more. Because, like,
yeah,
when fighting the dragon, Usopp actually does something instead of just sitting in the back like normal. He sets up a trampoline. What's it called? It's a green star trampolia, and it's a plant that's got a bouncy bulb on it, and it bounces Zoro up high enough to where he can cut the dragon's head off. But
yeah. Get him in the air.
back in the day, that
Usopp
Usopp
couldn't
wouldn't have
help
had
like that.
anything. Yeah. Usopp was
I see
just
exactly
running
what you're saying.
interference
I see
before.
exactly what you're saying. So
Now he
like
does stuff.
when we look at Fishman Island in its entirety, it's like, yay, we get to see these new skills and stuff. Now it's like, how y'all gonna make these new skills work with y'all crew? Because you're right, Usopp back in pre-time skill, bro, or Zoro had to grow legs, grow like super legs, and jump up there. He wouldn't have had to do that, but Usopp realizing, because I think Ace, the trauma that Luffy went through with Ace, the crew went through trying to figure out how to be better with Luffy, and thinking about how to be better with Luffy, they thought about how to be better to the crew, and Usopp himself did that. Like, I think he encapsulated how to get better with the crew, because not only do we see him do the trampoline, but in a minute, or I don't know if, I think it's the next week, and I think we'll get there where he uses the boat, the
No,
banana boat
this week.
plant. It is
This
this
like
week,
a
so yeah,
chapter later.
yeah, the banana boat plant when they
And the ore plant
freaking yeah,
with the
because
ore
they
leaf.
yeah, the banana boat plant, yeah. 'Cause I was trying to remember exactly where it was. I just know it happened, but
It's like an episode or two later from the
yeah,
trampolina.
I get everything mixed up around these parts because freaking like so much of this I've already seen, and I'm trying to think if it happens later or it happens then because I'm misplacing it. But yeah, no, the banana boat is like one of the ones that I liked that he did because it's like, bro, you literally have like just pulled up shit out of nowhere. Like my guy, you would not have had or done this at all pre-time skip. Like
Well, no, he did something
Frankie probably would have
similar.
built.
Remember, like on Sky Island, he keeps inventing useless stuff.
Well, yeah, but he actually had to make that.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Like he would have to come up
But
like Frankie, because remember in fucking Thriller Bark when Frankie just like carpentered some stairs out of nowhere. I thought he would have to go like that route if he wanted to do something like that. But they had him where he just had a plant that can make a boat,
another
which
thing is,
it's
kind
cooler.
of dials are kind of useless now with the
Dude, they haven't
plants that
used
he
dials
has.
anymore. Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and that's also a good way of looking at it too, because like you say how like dials are useless now and everything. Like, bro, before that was Usopp's whole thing.
yeah, there was
That was
like his
Usopp's
whole
whole
how
thing.
to help people was a dial. He would have had the octopus feet and dials. Remember the shoes that he made out of
Yeah,
octopus tentacles?
yeah,
Like that was like the belt that the grappling hook belt that doesn't work. Like that was like the entirety of what he had. Like
yeah.
that was
I'm with you.
it. And then they kill the dragon. They save the legs, and then Luffy eats a bunch of the dragon, and Luffy turns himself into a centaur.
I putting the legs on his back.
Also, I will say this is one thing I will give the manga credit for, or the anime credit for. The Kinemon's legs are less annoying, and the joke is much better in the anime than the manga. Because they give the joke away immediately in the manga.
Yeah,
But,
especially in English. In
yeah,
the dub, they give that shit away almost immediately because they put a fucking fart at the end of his words, and it was like
in the
in
manga,
sub
it's
in
everything is, it just says poot at the end of everything. But then at the when you find like if it didn't say poot at the end, the joke would have been so well written. Like it would have been just like, oh yeah, the whole time I was just farting. I just have very good control of my sphincter. Like what the fuck? Like that's a clever joke. But if you tell us the punchline every time it talks, it's
It's bad. Yeah, I
well,
understand.
it's not that
But nah,
like yeah, it's bad. It's a bad joke there. I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be real honest.
but I just go like, because you're talking with the sophisticated humor, like the kids and stuff ain't gonna catch it. Like they ain't gonna catch
No,
it
I
like
wouldn't
that.
even say that my humor is sophisticated because there's some stuff that's stupid that I think is hilarious. It's
You
just
can discern.
it
You
would
have you
have
have the gift
been
of
a
you
great
have the gift
joke
of
if
proper
the
discernment.
punchline wasn't given away. Is what
You
like
have the
it would have
gift of
been.
proper discernment is a better word. You can discern. You're not gullible. You're not as gullible because you know things. Like that's what I'm talking about. So like when you come up and say like, yeah, it's not sophisticated humor, you can say that, but you have the gift of discernment. You've seen these movies before. You've seen a lot of movies like this before, and you can say who's did it wrong and put it on a scale. Whereas a kid who hasn't absorbed that much media, at least not media of this type, to see it in this same perspective, it's not going to be as gullible. So they'll be asking questions the whole time until they get it, which I think is good. It's good to have those layers to where someone else sees it, a different audience sees it differently than another one. That's how I think media and art should be. Be different light when someone reads it besides the same person. But nah, like 100%. Like I see what you're saying. Like it's like, but like I say, dub. I think the sub, my bad, sub did it the best because at the end of it, I think and everyone think he just says boo. Just do whenever he says because you're reading anyway, and sometimes subtitles just put what he said at the end and not what it actually meant. So he was saying boo the whole time. He's like, why the fuck does he keep saying boo? And they had to put a question. But then when they said it, it's like, okay, that's probably them actually farting. And then of course when you see it in English, they actually just keep saying, just
Yeah,
keep farting
yeah.
noises
And
at the
then
end,
the manga draws fart clouds every time he talks too. But if he
which is
would have
that's
just
cool.
been talking, and then at the end it's just like, oh yeah, every time that you've been sitting and talking to me, I've been farting in your mouth. That would have been so
But
funny
it's been like it's still like Luffy
compared to
and
what
not
it
really
is.
caring.
Yeah,
Luffy and not really caring about anything. It would have been like something, Nami and them would have had to react
but
to.
yeah, you know what I mean though. Like if it would have
Yeah.
like that little bit, like something tells me that's what Oda wanted, and then when they paneled it and everything, they changed it because they did like it's like what I was saying about the anime, how they changed things because I think Toei thinks people is stupid
Well, the great
or are
censorship
stupid.
happened.
Yeah.
The great
So
censorship happened around this time to where they
I'm gonna
didn't
give
really.
Oda the benefit of the doubt almost every time now, just because he's shown that he deserves it with Dressrosa and Wano, in my opinion. So whatever there's something that's like a doesn't really make sense or like a joke that doesn't hit quite right, I'm gonna assume that it's the people at Shonen Jump ruined it with their
Yeah.
editing. I'm just
Oh,
gonna
dude, we
assume
could,
because
bro. I swear to God, we could literally make a whole side sub fucking series of just how bad the animators actually fuck up stories across anime.
dude,
Hey,
don't even get me
bro,
started on Miss Kobayashi's Dragon
bro,
Maid. Like you know about the
bro.
infamous thing with Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, right? Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid.
No, I've never seen it.
So they changed an entire section of dialogue from being about random stuff to talking about how bad the patriarchy is.
Really?
Yeah, it had no, they weren't talking about anything to do with that at all in the Japanese version. They just did it for the English version because, like I said, Toei, Funimation, all of them, they all suck.
All they do. I
Like,
thought they really in it for the money. Like that's why
yeah,
they.
like,
That's why.
and I
Like
can't say I
honestly,
like Mappa either though because they
yeah. I
literally
was just gonna
fucking
mention. I
destroy
was just gonna
everybody.
mention.
But they
I
look
was just
so
gonna
much
mention.
better than everybody else, so it's hard to dislike them. But their president is a dick.
You sound like I ain't gonna lie, you kind of sound like the whole controversy with the Kendrick and Drake thing. Like, yeah, he's on top, so it's kind of hard to go against him. But yeah, he just
But
called you a
like, I'm
pedo, though,
not
my guy.
like it's not like that where it's just like they make the most beautiful animation right now. Them and the people at what's it called? Um, I don't remember who does Demon Slayer. They're hands down so far ahead of everyone else when it comes to animation.
The UFO table,
Yeah,
dude.
UFO. That's it. Or is it UFO-dable? I can't remember how you're supposed to say it.
I'm look.
I understand what
UFO
you're saying.
table sounds
They're
funny.
so far ahead of everyone else that they make
Hell
everyone
yeah,
else look bad.
I mean, yeah, they
But
definitely showed that.
Mappa is basically a sweatshop.
Yeah, that JJK told us that pretty much.
Yeah,
Like, and they showed you even when they showed you the Sukuna versus Maharaga, like the shit they wanted to put out, and like
that
Mappa
shit
was
was
like,
so
"Nah, that was
good.
gonna take too long." It was man, it was fucking awesome, dude.
That
They
they
wanted to
even had to
fucking make
delay
Sukuna
one
look
of the
like,
episodes because the previous episode took so much work.
dude. They were, if I remember correctly, they were fucking getting done finishing these episodes like
4 hours.
24 hours.
No, no, no. The latest one was 4 hours before it went up.
But I thought they were starting them like at least 24 hours before, like from start to finish, is how
They
they were putting
might
them
have
out.
been doing it for some of them, but some tells me that they had it at least lined out before they started, like storyboarded on how they're gonna do it, but
Yeah,
they might
yeah, of
not have
course,
actually
of course.
animated it. But yeah, it's gonna be so hard for them to do Gojo versus Sukuna because that's like one of the craziest anime fights in a manga ever. Like that
That's
fight's
gonna be
crazy.
like we're starting to get into some crazy, and especially in anime, like a lot of shit is starting to get we're getting into the crazy parts of it. So it's really getting like it's gonna be tougher for these animators to get it like the best and do it the right. But
Yeah,
they haven't really. I ain't gonna lie. Even with the JJK the Maharaga that they put out, like I thought it was still pretty good. Like
I
JJK,
thought it
even the
was
animation
phenomenal.
part was like yeah. I'm just
Because it worked perfectly with like what's happening. Like it
yeah.
showed
Like my
off
favorite
how
part,
adaptation works better than the other
and
way to do it would have.
I know we're getting hella off topic here, but I think this is worth the discussion because it's like this is like for the community that we're entering
Yeah.
into and trying to give,
It
but
also shows
like
what Wit
seeing
needs to
how
do too.
side oh yeah, I think they're gonna do it too. I think they're gonna do it, but no, you see, just my favorite part of that whole fight was even when Sukuna found out that he had cursed energy and Maharaga was using cursed energy, and they was doing that sequence, and he was putting his hands together as he was talking into his domain expansion, which you already knew, and then he just did it, and it was just like, oh man, like that suspense up to there to that point was just perfect, phenomenal,
Or how he
like that.
changed. He went from using dismantle to cleave to like he kept alternating which one he used. That
Yeah,
way
like they really
Maharaga
cooked.
couldn't adapt fast enough.
Like they really cooked with the amount of space that they were allotted. They really cooked, and they just let you know just how talented these people are, and give them their time, treat them right, so they can continue to service this industry well. Because it's like don't we see it with the mangaka even right now. Like a lot of them work like horrendous hours and stuff, and like
Facts.
they do this and trying to just put this stuff out, and it's like, bro, you gotta respect that stuff, man.
Yeah,
Gotta
it's
respect it.
it just it just makes me hope that Wit puts their whole ass into it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and I think they will
but
with the
also
stuff
they
we've
can't
seen.
not, because like if they don't, the One Piece fan base is one of the most rabid. It's not the most rabid. The most rabid is JJK females. They're the most rabid fan base right now. But besides them, it's like probably One Piece fan base. So they can't afford to. You know what I mean? They can't afford
Right,
to fuck it up.
but the stuff we've seen already, if
Yeah, I
anyone
like the
hasn't,
fact that they show it like the actual what happened to Full Body in
yeah,
the.
like if anyone watching hasn't seen the screenshots and stuff of the Wits remakes and stuff that they're doing, and the character designs and some of the scenes that they've remade and shown already, give it a look. 'Cause I swear it's promising. At least that. Like
I
I'm
do
not the
hope
type of
that
dude to give 100%, but like without seeing it, but it looks promising. So
I
I
do hope
definitely,
they take the seasonal model with it. instead
Yeah,
of
that
having
would be yeah.
because
Keep it seasonal.
that's the only reason there's filler and stuff like that in old manga.
But even then, like I mean, the only thing about it that's different in their case too, they already have a whole track of what they can do, like already laid before them. So all they have to do is figure out what to adapt. But keeping it seasonal to keep everybody rested and keep it fresh on everybody, especially the takes they're trying to do. You know, keeping it completely manga accurate and all that. They're not gonna have a lot of wiggle room, and if they're gonna keep it original, they're not gonna use a lot of the wiggle room. They're gonna pretty much go straight because it looks like a lot, like you said, how stuff actually happened. Like my favorite one so far is what, like you mentioned, full body, how he actually did get beat to a pulp, like he was bloodied,
Yeah,
like
Sanji
Sanji
beat the
is that
fuck out
guy.
that man.
Like Sanji's that guy, and showing just how far he was go to beat up an admiral, or not admiral, but a military
I think
official.
he was a
You
captain
know,
or a lieutenant. Lieutenant full body.
yeah,
Yeah, he was a lieutenant.
how far he was willing to go to actually beat up a lieutenant, somebody, with some status in the Navy. It just lets you know that he about that life at the very least. And that's somebody you want on your crew, because that was one thing that I was looking at when I was watching. Everybody that was joining, like, is you about that life? Like, yeah, it's cool that you can cook, but is you going to beat somebody up? Like, yeah, Zoro, you got captured, though, but are you really about that life? And, they show you that they really about that, like, and I enjoy it. I enjoyed those aspects of it. So that's what excitement is, real excitement. But yeah, that just goes into the genius of Oda that we see just displayed on all the time. Like such, like especially like now when we get into all these foreshadows we were just mentioning. Like I'm noticing now, in these expansions on the world that I'm starting to notice now, and it's just everything. It's like, but it's almost like every time you watch One Piece again, you start to notice something else,
Yeah,
just a little bit something else.
another thing is, uh, after he like turns himself into a centaur, right? A nice little moment. He's just like talking to the legs. You crying, uncle? Yet? I ate a dragon, so now I have dragon power. And like Luffy's slightly buffer than normal. When
Oh,
he,
I didn't notice that detail.
yeah, here I can show it real quick. Um, see,
I think you gotta
or
share screen again with me.
yeah, my bad.
No, you good, ain't no problem. But if it goes out
Yeah,
again, because after you did it, when it went out last time,
see,
it was
he's
like,
slightly like you can see like the definition of everything. It's slightly like on his delts and his biceps and his forearms.
this wouldn't be the first time we've seen him with his shirt off up until this point, would it? No, hell
No,
no,
no, no,
because he
no.
was.
See, look, if you scroll up, you see like in the previous chapter, he does it like he still looks like he's pretty lean, right? But he doesn't look that not bust not the right word, but let me see if I can find a good thing to show off. Like there's a spot where he's got his shirt off. He looks rather small. Um Let me see if I can find a good spot. Let's see. He looks kind of small right there and right there.
Yeah, I
See,
see you
he
good.
doesn't. Here's a good spot to show it.
Yeah,
Like
so I see what you're
he
saying.
doesn't
So
look that
yeah,
big.
so that goes back to the belief
Like
theory again, which how as soon as he
yeah,
says,
like right
oh,
here.
yeah,
But
that's
it's
great. No, that
after he
one's
eats
great.
the
No, that
dragon.
one's great.
After he eats the bit of the dragon, you see like his entire body looks more muscular. See, like you see, like everything, like his pecs are bigger, his abs are more defined. You can see the separation in his delts and tricep right there,
It
where
would
the
be
cursor
and
is.
it would be accurate with someone of his body stature of how him
Yeah,
getting a little bit buffer. So yeah, no, I see. You're right. You're right. But that goes
like
back into
him
the
thinking
belief
that he got
theory.
physically stronger, and he looks physically stronger after eating it. So it's a nice little touch,
Nice touch.
like,
It is a nice
and then
touch.
he immediately gets suplexed, and it actually the big thing is the suplex actually hurts him. Like you see, like he coughs up a little bit of blood when he gets suplexed,
Yeah.
which is weird.
I don't think it really like. I don't think it was something really hurting him. I think he kind of did it to himself or the
Well, I wonder
legs.
if well,
He just dropped
it's a
because
what's it called, based attack. It's not a spiked attack or anything. So I wonder if Kinemon is using hockey,
to
like
do all what he's
subconsciously.
doing.
Because
Hey,
remember, he
hey,
can use hockey. He just doesn't
hey,
know that
it's
it's called
it
hockey.
is. Yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. You're
Because
right. It's possible. It's
I
possible.
think
It's possible.
all of them except for Iso, or the one that stayed and went to stayed with Whitebeard. I think they all know how to use hockey, if I remember correctly. They just don't know it's called hockey.
Yeah.
So it's just a nice little thing I noticed. And he gets suplexed repeatedly, too, which is funny. But you see, like, here's another good example. Like, it shows him after talking about dragon power a couple more times, and he still keeps the definition in his muscles that he didn't have at other awkward angles and shots.
All good. But you good.
But it was
I
just
got you.
something that I noticed that he looks stronger after saying, I got dragon power. So it was just a cool little thing I thought was worth bringing up, especially with the belief theory. So I thought it was worth talking about. And then
Uh,
Usopp sees Monet. Everyone thinks Usopp is crazy. Oh yeah, we forgot the other crew members get kidnapped. They wake up. We get the moment where they jigsaw together Kinemon's head. And we learn Frankie got the one thing that Luffy has been saying he needs to get from the beginning. He gets a big ass laser. Hell yeah, dog. Big
yeah.
ass
You all
laser.
right? He did say he wanted one of those from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
He was
true.
just like, we need a laser on the ship. And I remember when he
But that
first
was
learns
also
Frankie's
yeah.
a cyborg, he's like, "Can you shoot lasers?" And Frankie's like, "Nah." But now Frankie can shoot lasers. He actually it's the same lasers that the pacifistas use. It's based off
Yep.
Kizaru's power.
Light beam. Yep.
Yeah, based off the I forgot the name
The
of
actual
the
effect.
attack, but it's like the whatever. Uh, it's one of his attacks named after one of the three great treasures. I forgot what it's called. Frankie uses Radical Beam. It gives you 4K counter in the card game. Radical Beam's like one of the best. It's hilarious here that we see how strong Radical Beam is, because Radical Beam is arguably OP in the card game.
Yeah.
It just cracks me
I mean,
up.
I don't know.
So
Is it really OP in the card game?
it's arguably OP. So what it does in the card game is it costs one or two Dawn. When you're attacked, you gain 2K counter, so it's on par. So it's like a 2K counter when they swing at you. But if you have two or less life, it's a 4K counter. So it's like one of the best blocks, and it's one of the best cards that can block things in the game,
That
because
seems to
it's
be
like one of
synonymous
the
with
only
Frankie,
one card. It's one of the only.
and
Uh,
that's
there's only two cards that have a 4K guard in the game that I
and
know of,
that's
and one of them's not even out yet.
that's good because
Without
when you think
costing too
about
much.
Frankie, we think about Frankie and what his radical beam did for the Straw Hat crew and what it did just in general. Because really, there's only one other. Technically, just like you said, there's only two that you know of. Really, there's only two beings minus Kizaru that's able to do them outside of Kizaru. That's able to do beams, and that's Pacifista and Frankie. And now, well, later, well, in the story now, that's how it is. But later, there's a third outside of Kizaru that can do it, which is
Who's
the
the third?
Seraphim. But
I don't remember.
the Seraphim,
Oh, you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the Seraphim. So, um, yeah, that's interesting. Like that's really interesting that they're keeping it like, kind of sort of accurate. It's you can call it accuracy. It's more like a coincidence more than anything.
I
But
think I
yeah,
think the thing with that is it's just Oda has earned the benefit of the doubt to assume that it's clever. You know what I
but
mean?
nah,
Like,
Frankie learning that radical beam put like everything that he did. My only question was like, Why didn't he? Well, no, it makes sense because his beam technology isn't like the best. Like if it was like, cause that's why a lot of people saying that the Sunny's gonna get upgrades in Elbath too, which I agree with. Cause it's like, why didn't
I
you
would
put a
be
beam
shocked.
on
But I
the?
want to know
Why,
who has the Lego friggin' devil fruit.
hey, we gonna find out more about that in upcoming chapters, but nah, it's like it's just staying on that beam, like because when you talking about just up amongst upgrades amongst the Straw Hats, like I think Frankie probably got the craziest of upgrades and just how far he really took, because a lot of that shit's because of him, Sonny and its upgrades because of him getting the beams and the General Frankie and all that. Like he the one that really got over the top when you talking about upgrades amongst the Straw Hats, like full upgrades.
Yeah, and then after that, the radical beam, they meet the kids. Some of the kids are giants. They think what's the word? That the kids are giants, but no, it just turns
You
out,
just go over law, did it?
huh?
You just scoot over law, did you?
No, they haven't met Law yet.
They haven't. Oh
Not yet.
yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. Because yeah.
Yeah, it's
I'm
actually
thinking
at the end
of
of
the
the
wrong scene.
chapter that they talk
I'm
to all
thinking
the
of the
kids, I
wrong
think.
scene. I'm thinking of the
Like
wrong
they run
scene.
away with the kids, and then I think it's the next chapter, and then once they get to the kids, it shows like G5 breaking in the back. We see some Caesar talking stuff. The others find the ice part. Luffy befriends the centaur guy because the guy thinks he's like Luffy. Like Luffy is one of them since he's a centaur now. Brook wakes up. G5 is just like, oh, there's the guys, or there's a thing we can break through here to get going. And the G5 is just like, wow, Smoker's amazing that he knew that it was man made. And we learn officially that Alkainu and Aokiji are the ones that did this to Punk Hazard. And they shook the island to its core so much that they tore a giant hole in the center that has cracked all the way across the island. Like there's a line that bisects the entire island now. And then the next thing is when we meet Law. The next chapter is where they meet Law, where Law fights the entirety of G5 and instantly beats them.
Like top class butt whooping, ass whooping,
Yeah,
so to speak.
yeah, like what's it called? Another good thing to what we were talking about. This chapter also has special attack Green Star, Bodhi Banana, and Fangrass. And one thing that's interesting, um, is Usopp's like, this Fangrass can be used as an ore, and Nico says, you've got quite a collection of seeds, how fascinating. And he explains like how at the island he's got a thing that for 2 years there's literally no crisis I can't handle now, sort of thing. And he just like brings up the fact that he traded the dial system that he used to use to be a complete jack of all trades for the team, which is a good little bit of character development for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Because when you think about it, because one thing that was I always thought about, especially after Frankie joined the crew, which is I think a lot of people talked about, which was Frankie was going to take over a lot of things that Usopp was going to be able to do. But when you think about what Frankie did, Frankie kind of laid their foundation, because the foundation is the Sunny, and everything they can do. Without the Sunny, they can't really do a lot. You're not pirates without a ship. That's why it's significant. A lot of later times we've seen a lot of these people lose their ship because it's almost like they're losing them because it's pirates. But you see Usopp, he's sort of kind of becoming the glue. You know what I'm saying? The glue that's keeping the crew together, like filling in the blanks that it is. Because it's like once they get to a point where they can't figure out where to go next, it's like, oh, I can figure out a way. And he just doing that. Like him just coming out, pulling out a freaking leaf that served as a boat and other leaves that's oars. And it's like now he has all these different, tools to just how you say, help in any crisis that he can. There's no crisis he can't handle now. So he's just trying to be the glue in the crisis. We're seeing that now. But of course, like one thing I think that kind of also explains why, like we're getting to the later stuff, why it almost feels like him and a lot of the Straw Hats are getting rotated out. But that's definitely a good conversation for later, because it's like I'm starting to understand a little bit more now when it starts to come when we think about this metaphor. And I think a lot of people in later chapters just now other crew members in the Straw Hats are starting to become into their own versions of their lions. If that's what I'm starting to see and understand a little bit more as I start you know reading and watching and seeing and applying this metaphor and into the future scenes and stuff of One Piece. That
Yeah, it
makes sense.
fits surprisingly well. Also,
Yeah, especially,
it's funny that Luffy doesn't help Ro. He sits on the bow like always, even though it's just a little rowboat.
yeah,
And he
just like
says,
always.
on to the island of shaved ice, or the land of shaved ice, because he wants to make snow cones out of the snow.
Yep. That could also be another allude to them in their roles. Them trying to figure out what we're talking about, how like this arc is them kind of figuring out each other and figuring out their roles, like how as soon as they get to another ship, roles is the same. Luffy sits where he normally sits and he's still the captain no matter which boat they're on.
Yeah, he is always the. I think he even says the bow of the ship is where the captain sits. Like early on, like if I remember correctly, that's like one of his whole things. He's just like the front of the ship. He doesn't call it the bow, but he calls it because I don't think he knew what the name of it was.
See,
But the captain sits at the very front of the ship. Like he says that
yeah,
like when they before they get to the new world, I think. Cause I think Usopp tries to like pull his "I'm actually the captain" crap, and he's.
yeah.
I think Luffy's just like, no, bro, I'll fight you. I sit there. I think he even tells him like, "No, that's my seat," if I remember correctly, at the start.
I
And then
believe.
Team Sanji. That's not me naming it Team Sanji. The manga actually calls them Team Sanji. When it cuts back to them, it's in Biscuit's room, Team Sanji. The Frankie and Sanji are absolutely destroying all the guards, and Nami and them are running away with the kids. Brook fights Kinemon's torso. Brook wins, but the implication is that if Kinemon had his body, Brook would have got absolutely destroyed. Because Kinemon can't really fight that well. He's just bouncing on one hand.
Exactly. Yep.
And we
It's
see,
not
what's it called?
really yet.
Brook's fighting style has changed. Like, he uses ice in his fighting style now. Which just
Yep.
raises more questions about how his fruit works. Like, his fruit has to be something different. Like, his fruit is very interesting. Because he can use
They,
ice, and it's not normal ice. It's supposed to be colder than actual ice.
and
Because
I
you
think
see,
that's another thing.
he can freeze things that are cold.
That's another thing that Oda's been holding back on that I've been noticing too in the later chapters. He's been giving us a little bit more and a little bit more and just a little bit more of what Brook can do, and it's subtle. It's not even really like compared to everything else that's going on. It's really small, but like when you really look at it, it's like, dude, he's doing shits on bigger scales and bigger scales with this ice, and we did now just how we're just now getting introduced to it. And it does raise a lot of questions when you think about exactly where it's linked to. Because, he's Soul King now,
Yeah.
his
He might
moniker
actually
now.
be the King of Souls. We don't know. Then after that, Smoker pulls up to the front door, and he literally rings the doorbell. Law answers. We learn Law's now a warlord. You never really get to see how truly long Law's sword is, really, until like this picture, like So like you see this picture of it where it's the handle's taller than him and it goes all the way down to like close to the bottom of his coat. Like you don't really get to see how long his sword is. But it's a nice little change in my opinion. Like it just shows off. You don't really get a scale for his sword, but how he uses his sword in combat, it's important here where we see like he uses it as his own personal scalpel. So it finally having some scale to the sword is nice. But also it hides enough of it from the enemy, how he holds it. It hides a lot of it from the enemy so that the enemy doesn't know how long the sword is, which I think is just clever writing. Like, or a clever drawing is probably how I should say it. Because Law is a very, like, what's it called? He's a very
secretive,
like reserved. He doesn't tell anyone his full plan. Like he really always has a bit of something. Doesn't. He always has a bit of something hidden behind, and we're gonna learn. I think it's next week why. It's either next week or the next. We're gonna learn why that is. But his entire character is all about hiding stuff from people that he doesn't think they need to know. And then we learn that the kids have been told that they're sick. We see, but they were actually kidnapped. We see Chopper is naive enough to think that the kids are actually sick, which is funny.
He's a doctor, so it's like he has to go off what people tell him.
Well, it's not just that. It's like there's actually a moment where it's just like, so your parents told you to go to this place and get better? This is not me talking. And then the kid's like, nuh-uh, I was playing outside and these people showed up and told me my parents wanted me to come here with them. I didn't even get to say goodbye to my mom and dad because they said I might meet them sick too. And then
that's where it got really serious.
And Chopper was just like, wow, you sound really sick. And Nami's just like, are you that dumb, and slaps him? But you got to remember, Chopper's only like 12 years old. He's like a 12-year-old. Like mentally.
Yeah. He doesn't have a lot of intuition of his own yet. He's still what we were just talking about. He's still really gullible as a child.
Super gullible. We see that there's a bunch of presumably dead bodies frozen all over the place.
And then we find out that those were the old prisoners of Punk Hazard.
Yeah. And then Sanji and Kinemon's head have a big argument. We see more interactions with G5 and Law. Law's just like, y'all need to just leave. You're not supposed to be here. Or Smoker says, why are you here? Nobody's supposed to be here. Government orders. And Law's just like, well, that makes two of us. How about you just leave and I won't snitch on you? Which is kind of funny. And Smoker's just like, show me inside the lab. Law's just like, this is my vacation home, so no. You guys abandoned the island, so don't tell me what to do on the island now that it's mine. And then Nami and crew and the kids end up running out, and then they realize Law's doing something he's not supposed to. And a fight's gonna start. And Law almost immediately dismantles the entirety of G5. Because we see that his room has gotten a lot bigger since Sabaody. Like his room can cover massive things. And we learned what his fruit actually does. And his fruit is OP as shit. It's one of the strongest fruits in the verse. The thing is, it's just that, like, some of the stuff is, like, it just depends on, it's like one of those fruits that's not inherently OP. You have to be OP to use it properly. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be...
You gotta have some knowledge.
It basically turns you into God inside of a circle. That's the best way to explain what it does. It gives you the ability to operate on anything. So he can make a circle, and then he can control things down to the molecular level inside the circle. but he can also do other stupid stuff. Like he can swap people's personalities. Like he can trap people's souls inside of other bodies and vice versa. He can cut pieces of stuff. Like he can cut your head off. That's why Kinemon's head exists still. Without actually cutting them, he just separates them until they're reattached properly. It's he can rip your heart out without hurting you. It just makes you feel weaker because you can feel that like part of your essence is gone. But if he crushes the heart, it kills you. He can do all sorts of stuff. And we also learn later on that it can also make somebody immortal at the cost of the user's life. So it's one of the strongest, if not the strongest paramecia fruits that we've seen. Like it's super strong. And you see later on when he starts using like gamma knife and stuff like that, where he can just be like, I stab you in the foot, stop your heart, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also a good point that people bring up with it. It's not inherently overpowered. If you don't know the stuff Law knows, like Law is a trained doctor, like might even be a better doctor than Chopper, just because he's been doing it longer.
Just
and he's an actual surgeon. He was trained as a surgeon, not just a regular doctor. Yep. So he's able to actually
how it works.
Operate like a surgeon on everything. Yeah. Like the first time he shows off like the full extent of his power, he cuts a chunk of the island off and the G5 ship into little pieces and then makes a sculpture out of it just to show how much Smoker doesn't stand a chance.
Yep.
Because he doesn't want to hurt Smoker. He doesn't want to fight Smoker.
Then he ended up cutting like the whole little mountain island part they was on in half.
No, he just cuts a huge chunk of it. Like here, I can show you.
Like I remember, like he was a part of the reason that the gas like almost got in there at some point later. But we gonna
that's
get
later,
there.
Yeah. But right then, he just cuts a massive chunk out of the side of the island that they're on. And also he doesn't even cut it for real. It's interesting how he does it. It just shows off how strong he is. Like he makes the room. And his room is huge now. Like it can hold like a battalion class ship. And then you go. He's like, boom. He picks up the entire thing. The entire ship. Plus a bunch of chunks of the island. And then Smoker's just like, oh crap, we're screwed. He can dismantle everybody. Don't touch him. Like he'll beat you all immediately, sort of thing. Which is cool in my opinion.
Yep. That was an introduction of Law and like a good time skip introduction of him, like to show hey, this man can really just take a whole ship and do what he want with it. This whole room probably covering like a big area, like special enough to contain his whole army and pieces of this island, that whole ship, and still have a lot left. Yeah, y'all ain't messing with Law right there. Like they wasn't. Like he was doing too much. Like he had the control of like the way he was just able to take control of the whole battlefield in immediate, like in an instant. Just nah. I love that introduction. It's a show of power, just immediately to take your whole enemy's nerve away.
Yeah, and then we meet the boss, the Crocodile Centaur, which honestly is a cool idea, in my opinion. It's funny. They knock Luffy and the crew out the water, and then their immediate responses when they get out the water is, look at all those centaurs with comfy-looking coats. Zoro gets bitten by a shark. Like full cell ass, and he just walks it off. It doesn't even cut him. And we see Brook freezes a bunch of guns because his ice powers are OP. But I just love the fact that they're just like, we're freezing because we fell into the water.
Yep.
Like they can't even talk properly. And then there's like. Here, I don't know if you've seen this manga panel, but it cracks me up every time I see it. Look at those nice warm clothes, and they all have like psycho killer faces. It's
Yeah,
just it's
yeah,
just a nice touch.
yeah. It
And
was
their
how they
stuff's
did
just
it in
like, get one
that.
for me too. Like,
Yep. Hey, don't leave me up.
and everyone's just like, oh no, they're after our coats.
Yep. And that's
And
the one of
then
those elements, those pirate elements that Oda consistently keeps in the show to still kind of make you feel like there's that make them still be able to call themselves pirates still. Because like, oh, they try to say Luffy's good, but he'll you see what he'll
I
do.
don't
He'll
think
take your
Luffy. I
coat.
think Luffy is the personification of chaotic good.
Yeah.
Cause like he's
Yeah.
good-hearted, but he's not necessarily gonna do what you think is right. He's gonna do what
Correct.
he thinks is right. But this is the sculpture that he makes in the manga. It looks so much better than the anime. Like you can see, like Oda's a much better artist than the people that work on the anime. Like, look how good that looks. You know what I mean? Like the person that did the coloration of the manga deserves a fucking raise. Especially like the Dawn, like where it says Dawn Dun Dawn or Dawn. Like whoever was in charge of that stuff, I hope they get a raise because they deserve it. You know what I mean? They knocked it out the park. Then Law swaps the bodies of Chopper, Frankie, Nami, and Sanji.
Going back to them learning how to see from other people's perspective and
Yeah.
understand each other.
And the attack is called like Chambras or Chambers or something. I don't remember because I don't think it's spelled correctly in this translation. But it's not like you don't really see it with Frankie and what's it called, and Chopper, because their faces are so much different than everybody else's. Because they're like one of them's a reindeer, Chopper is a or Frankie has the weird chin, but you see one thing that I like a lot is here. I'll turn back on the picture in picture, um, where you see Sanji's face looks different. So does Nami. Like their faces look more like the person inside of them. Like we're gonna have the Law fight where Law picks them apart, but in a second I'll find a good example of their faces looking different based on who they are. But Law absolutely destroys G5. Like they didn't stand a chance. Like he one shots Tashigi. He one shots everybody. He immediately steals their what's it called, transponder snails. All that stuff. He one shot Smoker. Like he makes it look like him and Smoker are having a good fight. And it looks like Smoker's gonna win. And then Law pulls like this super gangster move, in my opinion, where he brings up a rock formation to block what he's doing and just grabs Smoker's heart through the block formation. Like shoot Smoker's heart out of it. And it just looks really good. But I don't I don't know if that's actually a problem we gotta worry about though, Dragon. Cause like
Um,
I don't know if it's a because you can show like we're doing a we should be on like fair use with this, you know, we should be covered under fair use.
I hope so.
So I don't know, but that is a good point.
You just saw. Okay, you good. You good. But no, you good. Continue.
But yeah, he absolutely dominates Smoker. Brownbeard, the crocodile guy, gives Luffy and them Luffy's gonna be Lucy in a couple of weeks. I need to be careful. Accidentally calling him Lucy. Um, but all that stuff happens. Caesar realizes that it's Monkey D. Luffy and crew that's here to steal their stuff. The Smoker gets absolutely bodied by Law still. And it's weird. It's like we haven't really seen. Every time we seen Smoker, remember, besides Ace, like Smoker seemed really strong. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know how they like showed him off because Smoke is such a pain to deal with as a Logia type, like unlike like fire and ice and all that stuff. Like there's no clear weakness of Smoke, but you just see Law just like not even caring, seemingly not even caring, and then just takes his heart, swaps their personalities, and Luffy's just like, "Oh hey, it's Trophy." It's like I owe him my life, which is cool.
Rappy.
Also, the start of the manga, the like first panel that it shows a bit of canon stuff. That's funny. It's like here. It's Sadie's fallen in love with the new vice warden, which is funny to me because it shows a couple of things that it's showing what's happening in Impel Down. We see Bon Clay survived. In the little one of them is Bon Clay took over the thing that Iva was doing. You know, the hidden chamber with all the people. Bon Clay took over that for Iva after everything happened with Impel Down in the past 2 years. We see it in those little things, which is cool. Because I was seeing discourse online. The only reason I bring it up is because I saw a lot of things where people were asking if Bon Clay died or not. Because a lot of people didn't know what happened to Bon Clay. But because the anime doesn't tell you what happened to Bon Clay, but the manga tells you that Bon Clay is good. He runs the underground part of the... He runs New Kamabaka Kingdom... or New Kamabaka Queendom in the
New Cumberland.
New Kamaland in the bottom of Impel Down, which you figure it would have got shut down by now.
I mean, probably, maybe, but it's also a big way that it couldn't have been because the simple shit, like,
Yeah, it is gonna be hard.
You
to
think
find.
about Bon Clay. Now you think about Bon Clay and his ideology. You think he wouldn't want to get more people out so they could be ready to probably do the same thing?
I'm saying you figured like they would have been like, where have all these people been hiding? Like the Impel Down people would have been like, where was Ivankov hiding? We thought they died, but they were really in an underground bar sort of thing. I figured they would have found the underground bar, but it also could be that they use the devil fruit power to hide it now, instead of just being in a part no one knows about. Also would
Being
completely
smarter
explain
about
it. Ebon Clay
Being
could
way
just pretend to
smarter
be
about it.
someone that said there's nobody here.
Yeah, he's keeping it under wraps himself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
am
yeah.
curious how he breaks out of his sea prison cuffs.
With what's his face gone? The scissor hand guy gone.
Yeah. With nobody
Yeah.
down there. It's just
I mean, he might have he was you do remember he was Magellan for a while. He has the ability to be Magellan, so it's like he
yeah,
might
but he
have
got
set
captured
you come
for
laying up.
like since then. So I'm just curious. It's interesting. Also, it could also be that he just awakened his devil fruit, and the awakening of the devil fruit could be super OP, and that's how he did it. Cause it's been 2
Find out
years.
whatever it is.
It's
I'm
been 2
interested to
years.
find out whatever it is
Also,
for
Hard
sure.
Law in this fight with G5 says something that I think is super hard. He Tashigi's just like, you could at least kill me and let me die with honor. And Law says, the weak don't deserve to choose how they die. I just like that line. That's a cold line.
It is. It is. Without any other context or anything. Yep, it is.
Well, it's him. He refuses to kill Tashiki when she asks him to, after he absolutely decimates her. And then another good line, one of the few good lines in this episode slash chapters, is Luffy is just like talking to Law, and it's he's like, I owe this man my life, and Law's just like, you and I are both pirates, don't forget that. And Luffy says, hee hee, true. In our search for the One Piece, we're enemies, but there are lots of people I owe for their help 2 years ago. I'm lucky I met both you and Jinbei. Thanks a ton, really. And Law's just like, what the fuck? Like he actually has a what the fuck face. Like, here's his face. See his face. It's like, the fuck is this man talking about? And it just cracks me up that that's his response to being thanked. He's like, what the hell is this kid on about? Because Law's a good bit older than Luffy. He's a couple years older than Luffy. Law swaps Tashigi and Smoker's bodies. Luffy and Co. run to find Sanji and them. Sanji's desperate to find a camera since he's in Nami's body. And apparently Nami and Frankie's body keeps beating up Sanji and Nami's body because he keeps trying to sneak peeks. But let's see if I can find a good example of their faces that I was talking about earlier. Oh yeah, Kinemon shows off that he has a devil fruit, but he thinks it's just magic sorcery because he doesn't know what a devil fruit is. He can make clothes out of stuff. But where's Also, I just noticed Frankie has eyelashes inside Nami's body. Or when Nami's inside the body. I never noticed that. But, trying to find a good picture of how different the face looks. How different Nami's face looks while Sanji's inside the body. But they come up with the plan to stop Caesar. They make the pirate alliance. They say the whole thing was Kinemon talking as just legs was him farting.
Yeah, that's when they revealed that. When he let him know all that.
Yeah, it's right here. That was me farting. A neat skill of mine, not to toot my own horn. See, if there wouldn't have had the toot all over the place previously, that would have been such a good joke. Like, that would have been such a well-written joke. But I digress. The samurai Kinemon's just like, I'm gonna go find my torso. Law talks to Caesar, and we learn that Law is working with Caesar. But we don't know why he's working with Caesar. I will say, I don't know if you've seen this thing, but this is one of my favorite pieces of art Oda has done. Yeah, I admit that looks hard.
I just got a bunch of guys and stuff. That's cool.
But this is the thing that starts this chapter of the manga, and it looks dope, in my opinion. Like, it shows off how good Oda is of an artist. It's awesome.
We'll go on and on about that, but
yeah. But no, this just shows, like, it shows off, like, more so than most things do that Oda does in the manga. So it's
there's a lot. There's a lot we could go about. Like, there's a lot. But like I say, that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. We see Caesar is an annoying twat. The best way to say it. He tricks one of the centaur guys into killing themselves by lying. Usopp uses his arts and crafts skills to make badges for everyone to see their head. Like, for everyone else to see who they are. But yeah. Then we learn Caesar the clown has helped all the people that were stuck here. But nobody knows that Caesar clown's actually the reason everyone was stuck here. Because he tricks everyone into thinking that they're good guys. It's funny that like everyone when Brownbeard tells the story, Frankie and Usopp, even though they're in different bodies, they're like crying their eyes out. Or not Usopp, Frankie and Chopper, they're crying their eyes out, and Usopp's just like, that's interesting. But Sanji and Nami just seem like they couldn't care less. And then we found out how their centaurs is Law, or as Luffy calls him, Trophy, made the bodies using the OP. Since all the guys' legs didn't work, and that's how they became centaurs. Caesar poisons a centaur, dude.
Yeah, that's the deal that him and Caesar have.
Yeah, he was just like, I can make all your dudes better again. You don't need the little glass crowd things. Caesar poisons the centaur dude, tricks him into dying horribly. We learned Caesar has one of the most OP Logias we've seen, I would say.
At this point, yeah.
Just because, like, he's one of the few that, like, because he's a scientist, he's just like, oh, I use my fruit in a weird way.
Yeah, him being a scientist, same thing with, like, us being introduced to law, not him being an actual surgeon helps him. Like,
Yeah.
Caesar being a scientist, knowing the properties of gas, just him being a chemist and being specializing in chemistry and stuff, it just all worked out.
Also, another cool thing that the anime doesn't touch on is when Frankie accidentally activates guard point. Frankie says, whoa, I'm all fuzzy now. And Chopper says, that's guard point. You can switch between 6 forms using your imagination. In the anime, Chopper doesn't point that part out. And I thought it was, like, based on the stuff that happens in the future of this story, seeing him use that wording, 6 forms using your imagination, is very interesting. Because, like, that's the wording that we're going to get from how everything works later on, like in Egghead and in Wano. I just thought it was worth pointing out that this is probably the first time someone has linked, here I'll show the panel, that we've had how the power works, like the different powers works with imagination. Or I feel like the Japanese is probably closer to belief than the word imagination, but I digress. I just thought it was a really cool thing. You know what I mean? Just because you don't see it a lot. Just because it's not something that's brought up, and the anime doesn't even really address it at all. Like, the anime just says something about the anime just says something about I could just change forms. And then Brooke's just like, I met the guy that's a torso. Sanji's just like, well, I gotta go help him find his body. I'm the one that dragged him into this. Sorry. Sanji just like, I'm gonna go find the guy and I'm gonna find a camera while I'm out and about. And Nami's just like, no, Zoro's going with you now so that you can not take pictures. There's a funny moment where Frankie keeps making weird faces. And Robin's just like, don't you ever do that again, Frankie, with Chopper's body. You're not allowed to be in Chopper's body. Chopper does experiments with the kids' blood and stuff to find out that they're being poisoned and drugged with what's the actual thing? It's NCH10, I think, is what it is. It's NHC10. So what's that? Nitrogen, hydrogen, carbon 10. Or it might not even. And then it might not even be an actual thing. There's a really dope paneling here, which I think is awesome. The paneling with where it shows like the effect of the drug on the kids. With this paneling is genius in my opinion, and it's so good that I think it's just worth pointing out how good of a paneling it is. Like it shows like the darkness overtaking the kid from his withdrawal symptoms. 10 out of 10, Oda. Good job. And then Sanji with Chopper's controlling him is saying it's a stimulant. Only select doctors in select countries can do it. I know about it because Dr. Reen had some. It treats illness, but if you use too much of it, it's super addictive. And it pisses Chopper off that they're using the guise of being a doctor to hurt and then basically enslave some kids. The kids want some candy, and it turns out the giant kids are super strong. And also, they can't touch the kids because they're just kids, so they have to just chain them up after Usopp uses Sleep Star to put them to sleep. I just noticed that interesting hairstyle. Even one of the kids is a baby, which makes it even more effed up.
Nah, that should go deep, bro. Because when you look at how he's even talked about how they was taken away from like their families and stuff. And
what's it called? The thing where they dive deep into it hasn't popped up yet. But there's like the part where the parents are trying to convince G5 to look into it. Which is like makes it sad because the parents are just losing their mind, but they keep saying that nope, the kids are just dead. We meet the Yeti Cool brothers. I do not care for the Yeti Cool brothers, personally. I don't know about you, but I don't find them interesting at all. They're just Yetis with rockets. Oh yeah, here's the thing with shows Bon Clay still alive. Oh hell, new queen of New Kamaland. That's just worth showing off. And then we see Caesar thinks Law did everything, called the Navy. He didn't, because that'd be stupid. We hear Joker has something to do with what's going on. We see a little bit of the backstory of Law's deal with Caesar. Law walks away. The Yeti Cool brothers show up. Kind of win, since most of the fighters aren't there. They get the jump on them. Frankie eats a rumble ball, turns giant, screws everything up for the most part.
Because he couldn't handle it, yeah.
Yeah, because he can't control it at all. Which
you get a lot of deposition on La Chopper's fruit here.
Yeah, and then it doesn't take much for them to beat the Yeti Cool brothers. It's just the Yeti Cool brothers use the environment, and none of these guys are really suited for it. But it goes back to like what I was saying with the how the it's like them learning how to deal with the new with each other's new powers and stuff. Because if you remember, before when he goes Monster Point before the time skip, Chopper couldn't really do much with it. He could only be in it for like a minute. Now he can be in it for 3 minutes, and he has total control over it. But you see, Frankie has absolutely zero control, but his body is much stronger than back in the day. Because like he can be in it for 3 minutes. Remember, they try to launch a piece of the top of the mountain at him, like a boulder at him, and Frankie's able to just grab a boulder, which he wasn't able to do back when the first couple of times we saw Monster Point, an entire tip of a mountain, and grabs it. Because like they show in the panel, it's the actual tip of one of these mountains that they shoot off. Like it's the actual like very tip of the ice mountain. And Frankie is able to catch it and hit one of the Yeti Cool brothers. Like, here's a good, just to show you how big of a thing it is. Like, the panel shows off how big the rock is. It's friggin' massive. He uses it to hit one of the Yeti Cool brothers. Law deals with the other Yeti Cool brother. Law joins up, tells Luffy about his plan. I have a plan to take down one of the four emperors.
Yep.
And it's the thing I was telling you about earlier. With the where's it at? Luffy's just like, which one do you want to go after? Like Luffy's like an alliance. Law says if we join forces with you, or Luffy says if we join forces with you, we can beat one of the four emperors. That's preposterous. I don't know what you're thinking. Or no, this is Nami that says it, my bad. But we're not doing this, Luffy. Don't let him talk you into this nonsense. And Luffy's just like thinking. Law says, I didn't say we could stroll right over to the four emperors or win. Saying we follow a plan, we have a chance to do it. And Luffy just says, when you say one of the four emperors, which one do you mean? And it doesn't tell you who he says. But we learn shortly after that is Kaido. And Luffy's just like, I see, I'm in. As soon as he learns that it's not Shanks. And I like how the manga leaves it open-ended like that. To where, like, you could think he was talking about Shanks. But once you know that it's Kaido, it's just, I think it's well written, personally. I think it's one of the best little things that Oda put in this arc. Especially, like, the anime almost ruins it, like we were talking about earlier. Because it's just like, I want to beat them all, but Luffy doesn't say that. He cares about which one they're going after first. Law fixes the personalities of everyone that's there, so Nami is now in Sanji's body. But this should be a good place to show it off whenever we get a close-up of Sanji's face. Yeah, here we go. But you see with how Sanji's face looks more like Nami's face. Now that Nami's inside of Sanji's body. Like the nose placement and the eye shape and everything. It's like Nami's instead of Sanji's. It's the little things that matter in my opinion. And Oda's really good at the little things. Law takes Chopper to the base so he can figure out how to save the kids and the poison. What's it called? A giant slime monster shows up. It's a really pretty color. Smiley. It's a inhabitant of Punk Hazard slime. It's a giant slime. Named Smiley. We get the operation started. They find Kinemon's body in the bottom of the lake when the giant slime starts moving through things. So it makes it dangerous for when Sanji jumps in the water in Nami's body. He's worried about it because he doesn't want to mess up Robin's body. Luffy fights Smoker, immediately beats Smoker, but Smoker's like weakened because he's inside of Tashigi's body. And then Luffy fights Caesar. It looks like Caesar's winning because Caesar tries to use poison against him, but Luffy's almost completely immune to poison thanks to fighting Magellan, so that doesn't work. But somehow Luffy still gets knocked out, and they don't explain what it is. Caesar shows up to get the kids back. And we learn the thing that he used on Luffy was that he robbed his body of oxygen. He removed all the oxygen around him with his Logia abilities. Caesar gets the kids. Brownbeard tries to attack Caesar. Doesn't work because Caesar's a Logia, and if you don't have if you don't have hockey, nothing works on a Logia. Monet and Law go deeper into the compound. We don't know what's happening. Law feels sick. A dude named Virgo shows up, and he's one of Doflamingo's most trusted men. And he also happens to be like OP. See, he's talking crap to Law. He understood Law is going to betray them because he had a feeling. Just keeping eyes on everything that was happening. And then Kinemon's put back together. We get a couple moments of Kinemon doing cool stuff. Like, we see that he has a special technique where he can cut actual fire. We learn about the townspeople asking about the kids. We see Mocha and the blue-haired kid's dad. But the G5 that are there pretend that nothing bad has happened because they work for Virgo. Virgo is a douchebag that is fine with the kidnapped kids, and they keep telling them, the parents, that the kids are dead. And then it all sets up for a weapon showcase of Smiley, the giant axolotl. It's a giant poison slime that ate the salamander model axolotl. And we learn the entire thing that was set up when Law's in jail with, or not really jail, but thrown in a cage with Luffy, Nico, Frankie, Smoker, Tashigi. We learn that this entire plan of Caesar's is led by Joker, who is one of the warlords of the sea. Doflamingo, I forgot how to say his first name, but he's the dude with the boa from Marineford. And that's pretty much exactly how it ends. These episodes end. There's a giant piece of candy for the salamander to eat, for Smiley the salamander to eat, and then it ends right before things change. Well, we see another dragon. We see a green dragon, and then
you're on the 601 now.
Oh yeah, that's 601. My bad.
Yeah, use Virgo was the Virgo and the and the um reveal of the special experiment was
Yeah, where it
600.
shows like a kid just like we don't care about buying it, but we want to know what's out there. We're like killer ass kid. Why is he watching the thing? But yeah, and
No,
that's
they show a lot. They show this with this chunk I'm starting to see showed a lot of, like, we starting to see just how deep also what's changing, the idea of the government is changing. We starting to get the background of how they really operate under the same underworld that Luffy and them entering. We starting to see just how the government operates in the same underworld. I just
yeah, they
noticed
do
that
a bunch of shady
reading
shit.
along with you there, like
Yeah, we see
keeping up
that
and
they
seeing
do
that
a
little
bunch of
stuff,
shady stuff.
which is stuff that we haven't seen because you look at beforehand, pre-time skip, it was probably arguable that the government had like a lot of say, and not a lot of say, but like a lot of merit and a lot of truth to what they was doing. Like, yeah, pirates out here fucking up shit and all that, need somebody to stop them. But as we get into the new world, starting to see a lot of underground shit that the government is doing. Because, a lot of this shit, we got to realize that the warlords are sanctioned by the world government. A lot of this stuff going on in the presence of the Navy, in the presence of somebody like Law, who is supposed to be a member of the world government, but he is also a pirate. We're starting to see all that. So, like, I like that. It's starting to switch around, and we're starting to see just like it's the new world. We're starting to see just how new this world is, and there's a lot of aspects that make the new world, not just the setting and not just the place, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff, like world building wise, but not really for the metaphor. You know, it's we're so close to shit getting real. We're so close. Like Dressrosa start in a couple weeks, which I'm excited for because Dressrosa was the first time I actually enjoyed One Piece. So I'm looking forward to getting into Dressrosa. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I can think of for this week. What about you? Like what happened?
Yeah, I got too much else.
Yeah. So I think we'll call it there. Um the normal stuff. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Got anything you think we missed, should add? Any challenges to the stuff that we brought up, anything like that? Feel free. Actually, not feel free. We encourage you to um, talk to us about it. But yeah, I've been corrupted,
This has been Dragon.
and we'll see y'all next time.
Gotta be safe.
Deuces.